Welcome to New Jersey Divorce Talk Radio, fostering the growth of collaboration through shared resources while empowering families to divorce with dignity. This is New Jersey Divorce Talk Radio.
New Jersey Divorce Talk Radio is brought to you by the Collaborative Divorce Professionals Practice Group, independent interdisciplinary divorce professionals serving Monmouth, Middlesex, and Ocean counties. For more information, visit njcollaborativeprofessionals.com.
Hey everyone, and welcome to New Jersey Divorce Talk Radio. I'm your host, Dustin Cannon. At New Jersey Divorce Talk Radio, we interview leading divorce and family law professionals to give you the information that you need to get through your divorce and move on with your life. In today's episode, we're talking about high conflict divorce, high conflict couples, and the difference between divorce litigation and the collaborative process. Now with us today we have New Jersey divorce attorney Laura Diorsi and psychologist and licensed professional counselor Dr. Karen Donahue. Welcome, Laura and Dr. Donahue.
Thank you so much, Dustin. Welcome to you as well.
Laura Diorsi is a New Jersey divorce attorney and court-certified mediator with over 20 years' experience. She's committed to mediation and the collaborative process and assisting families as they move through transition. Dr. Donahue is a licensed professional counselor and experienced psychologist. Over the past 10 years, Dr. Donahue's private practice has focused on the unique needs of children, families, and adults in need of emotional support during life's difficult transitions. And her specialized training in child psychology and family dynamics enables her to understand each family member's unique needs, allowing her to formulate meaningful interventions for all of her clients. Now, before we jump right into the topic of high conflict couples and divorce, I was wondering if you could just tell us just briefly a little bit about your practice.
Good morning, Dustin. This is Dr. Donahue.
Good morning.
My practice focuses mostly on divorce needs. As a psychologist, I work with both parents managing some of the emotional hot buttons that tend to get in the way in divorce decision making. I also work with children, acting as a neutral voice for them as to what it is that they need in the divorce process to have a healthier transition post-divorce and, ultimately a positive relationship with each parent. We help parents to kind of separate the emotional difficulties that they're experiencing from the goals that they're looking for as they move forward. Kind of trying to help them from the problems they're experiencing with their current divorce, but kind of bridging forward to a healthy co-parenting relationship thereafter.
Dustin, this is Laura Diorsi, and I'm a certified matrimonial lawyer, and in my practice I handle litigated divorces, collaborative divorces, and also mediation. And in all of those areas, I basically assist my client in reaching an agreement so that they can move on with their lives. It's different when it's litigation versus collaborative. And then in mediation, I actually work with the two couples to reach an agreement and then have them take it to an attorney to review the agreement.
Laura and Dr. Donahue, we're talking today about high conflict couples that result in high conflict divorce and how that is impacted or what the process is like in litigated divorce as opposed to how the collaborative divorce process can work better for people who may potentially have a high conflict situation. Can you tell us, first of all, what are some of the major differences between divorce litigation and the collaborative process?
In litigation, the court basically controls the process. Most attorneys would file a complaint for divorce in the court, and then that complaint would be served on the other party, and then they would be in the court system from the very beginning, and the court system would dictate different time frames when things have to be done. They would dictate when attorneys have to accompany clients or go on their own to the courthouse for various parts of the process. So basically, when you proceed with a litigated divorce, the court is controlling the process, and the attorneys as well, but you're on the court time frame with the process. When you have a collaborative divorce, the parties and the attorneys and the team are controlling the process. We do that through different meetings that we have. We decide, what types of professionals you want to assist in the process, and the parties are basically controlling that process. So that's one of the major differences between litigation and collaborative. The court controlling the process or the parties and their attorneys controlling the process.
There's a very different level of autonomy in the two processes. The goal of divorce is to problem solve and come up with an acceptable agreement for a family to move forward in a healthy way. When you're working with the court is kind of in charge of a lot of the decision-making process. When you meet, what you talk about, there's a lot of animosity involved. There's really no assistance in terms of trying to manage some of the emotional aspects of divorce, whereas in the collaborative process, you have a team of professionals whose main goal is to help this unique family come up with an agreement that is appropriate to their family. We take the time to get to know clients. There's coaches who help manage some of the financial aspects as well as the emotional aspects. There can be team members who work with children to help involve them in the process so that there's less animosity and there's more personal control. We problem solve together at our own time frame so that the agreement can be determined in an expedient manner, in a cost-effective manner, but most importantly, in a healthy manner for the family.
Right. There's also more confidentiality in the collaborative process than in litigation, because in litigation, various documents need to be filed with the court. Those could include your financial statements, your tax returns, your W-2s, your pay stubs. So all of your financial information is basically becoming a public document.
So that information actually becomes publicly, anyone can go and access it?
It's a public record.
Right, it's a public record. It's filed with the court, so it is a public record.
And during the collaborative process, that's not the case.
It's not. When a divorce is put through, you may have to file certain financial information with the court, but that can be controlled a little more. So,
okay. But
there's a lot more confidentiality in the collaborative process than in the litigated process.
In the collaborative process, we sign a participation agreement, which kind of ensures that what's discussed amongst the team in terms of ironing out disputes and coming up with decisions, that information is held confidential to the team. While the team members can communicate about it, nothing goes outside of the collaborative team. And really, it's the agreement at the end that gets filed with the court. So there's a higher level of confidentiality. A lot of people are concerned about business partners knowing their financial business or their personal business, and there's definitely a higher level of confidentiality for families going through the collaborative process.
And my understanding is that for the collaborative process to work, everyone has to be open and honest and forthright with providing full transparency. Is that correct?
That is correct. There has to be full cooperation with all the parties so that a well thought out agreement can be reached. There has to be complete financial disclosure.
And so
the collaborative process.
That confidentiality that you have creates an environment where people are comfortable doing that, I'm sure.
Yes.
Transparency is important. We don't want to make it sound like everybody's openly talking about their information. There's obviously animosity involved in the collaborative process as well, but it's just managed in a healthier way where you're sharing with your attorneys, your financial aspects or the emotional aspects involved, and as a team, those variables can be managed to come up with an appropriate agreement. There is transparency amongst the team members as well as the clients.
So let's look real quickly at litigated divorce, the litigated process. Can you give us an idea of what people can expect, how a divorce happens in the traditional way?
Well, in a litigated divorce, as I said before, you're basically on the court's time frame. So the court is setting forth different dates that your attorneys have to go down to the courthouse. They're setting forth different dates where information has to be exchanged and documents have to be filed with the court. If the parties cannot make decisions regarding the finances or a parenting schedule, the attorneys have to file an application with the court, and then a judge makes a decision. Sometimes there's different experts, like financial experts involved, where they evaluate a business. But it's all based on the court's schedule and the court's time frame. So sometimes you might pay for your attorneys to go to court for a case management conference, and that might take 4 hours of attorney time, even though they may only really be handling your case for 15 minutes. But because they have to wait at the courthouse for those 4 hours, the clients both have to pay their individual attorneys for those 4 hours.
And that could really add to the cost, I'm sure.
Correct. And in collaborative, we handle all of those things at different meetings that we have. So if we have a 4-hour meeting, everyone at the meeting is focused on the case. It's not just the 15 minutes that were given by a third party. So financially, that can really impact the case.
The process of decision-making in litigation involves a much larger time factor. It could go on for a year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on the court's caseload. Each decision could have a 4-month interval in between the next step, whereas that does not necessarily happen in the collaborative divorce. The team is much more in charge of the time process that goes on, and the cost projections are significantly less. Each time you have to file a motion or go to a court or make a phone call or write a letter, it's billable time, as opposed to the collaborative divorce process where we can contain costs in a better way, that the paid time that is being used to settle the divorce process is really maximized and useful for the clients to move forward.
You said that a litigated divorce can last 1 to 3 years. I'm guessing it's a lot of different factors that can impact that. What's the time frame that you often see for collaborative?
It really depends on the parties and what they want to accomplish. Sometimes a collaborative case can be resolved within a few weeks. Sometimes it can take up to a year. I mean, it just really depends on the parties and the schedule that they're on and how quickly they want to resolve the case. So again, I think the main difference between the litigation and collaborative is maintaining control. So if you want it to last a month or if the parties want it to last a year, that's within their control, versus litigation when you're kind of relinquishing that control to the courts and to your counsel and just to the process of litigation.
I would say collaborative on average. Every family is unique and every case is unique, but would be more closer to 6 to 8 months.
Exactly, I agree.
Time rather than 1, 2, 3 years moving forward. So it's definitely a quicker process, so long as the clients are kept moving forward at a good pace in decision making.
Do you have any real life examples of how these two processes differ with, issues that divorcing couples may face typically?
Right. Well, one example might be when the parties cannot agree on how to continue paying the bills let's say in the marital home. In a litigated case, if the party who's paying the mortgage decides that they're not going to pay the mortgage anymore, then the other party has to file an application with the court, which can take up to 30 days or more to be heard by the court. And it would also cost significant legal fees. So then they would have to do this to get a court order by the court stating that what each party's responsibilities are for paying the bills on the home. In the collaborative process, we can sometimes accomplish that in one meeting, usually in an hour or two where we would meet, the attorneys would meet, the parties would meet, we might have the financial professional to assist us, and we would come up with an agreement about how the bills would be paid going forward. So you're talking again about time and about money in the collaborative process, where something could be resolved in as quickly as an afternoon with only several dollars of legal fees being utilized, versus the process where if you had to go to court to have a court order established, that could take at least a month or more, and it would be thousands of dollars. So that's just one example.
It's not just the legal fees, I'm sure. People have to take off work to attend these meetings or these court dates. They have to arrange for childcare possibly.
Exactly. And then you have all that time that's gone by when perhaps the bills haven't been paid. So then you have additional charges and
there's a lot of emotional factors that go on with that. Because as clients are looking towards divorce, they're getting more and more upset with each other and they can't see each other's viewpoints. So one client may be seeing it in one perspective and the other client's obviously seeing it in the other perspective. But with months going on end to make one little decision, they just tend to escalate their anger. And it's not healthy for them as co-parents, and it's not healthy for the children in the home. So it really kind of it can be damaging long-term, and that's just one simple decision. You know, there's a lot of decisions that go into the process of separating and divorcing and coming up with an agreement. So the litigated process has just such heavy emotional tolls with every step of the way, whereas in the collaborative process, we can really kind of say, okay, well, these are our goals. This is what we need to accomplish. How can we do that together? How can we do that so it's fair to everyone, keeping in mind each client's goals and each client's needs moving forward, but settling it in an afternoon so there's not such emotional turmoil going on and on.
You know, it seems like one of the biggest factors of disagreement in where parents can agree pertains to the children. How does the collaborative process change how people experience those types of conflicts?
The collaborative process really focuses on keeping families intact as much as possible so that the divorce process doesn't destroy children or parents along the way. It's really unique and it's a really healthy way to solve problems moving forward. Children in the collaborative divorce process are paramount. Their needs are paramount. Parents are focused on the goals of the children moving forward, things like living arrangements, schools, how decisions are going to be made. And what's unique to the collaborative process is that there's divorce coaches as well as neutral child specialists who communicate with both parents as well as the children, depending on their age, to help make the most educated choices in the child's best interest moving forward. So they listen to the children, they listen to the parents, and they help come up with a parenting plan that is emotionally sound and developmentally sound for the children as well as the parents moving forward. In a litigated case, the disagreements can come down to minutes. Parents tend to disagree over amounts of time, amounts of overnights where the children are going to be after school, a concept called the right of first refusal. And all of those variables tend to create animosity and a source of disagreement for parents. So attorneys are writing letters and filing motions, kind of negotiating back and forth. And no one's involving, the parents together or the children in this process. Sometimes the courts will say, okay, well, if you can't make a decision, we're going to move forward and get a forensic child evaluator to determine what's in the child's best interest. And an evaluation like that can cost thousands and thousands of dollars, like over $10,000, as well as take up another 6 months worth of time, again, prolonging the process. So the collaborative process really does work to safeguard the healthy transition of families from, married life to divorced life in an expedient manner that takes into account everyone's needs so that the families can move forward.
I would think those types of issues that you talked about with children and parenting time and that, those are issues that are going to keep coming back because as kids start school, as their schedules change, as they start sports, and what have you. They're gonna be future potential disagreements about those issues. Do you find that folks that have gone through a litigated divorce are more likely to return to litigation when those issues come up again?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think the benefit of the collaborative process, as Dr. Donahue indicated, is that the parties learn how to handle the situations that come up. So with the professionals that they're working with, they learn to better handle things that might happen in the future. So I think it's very child-based, as she indicated, that because they become so child-faced, they tend to put their child's needs ahead of their own. And I think that's a very important factor in the process, whereas in litigation, I think, the parties are just looking at, well, I want that extra night, or I want that extra hour with my child, versus kind of taking it from the child's perspective. How does it impact the child when they're going from house to house and carting their backpack with them from house to house, or if they have, if they're attending a special high school where they have an intense amount of homework, 4 hours of homework a night, how is it going to impact them? So I think in the collaborative process, they're really giving the children a voice and making the parents realize, hey, it's not about you. Think of your child's needs and let's do what's best for them.
And I think that most parents, they do know that, they do realize that, and maybe the litigated process by nature kind of sweeps them into this adversarial situation, this high conflict, and the collaborative process, from what you're saying, sounds like it helps them to be an environment that is safe, free from conflict, and thus allows them, with the direction of your coaches and experts, to see those things more clearly. Would you say that's true?
I would say it is, but Dustin, the one thing we have to remember here is that not all collaborative cases are easy. I mean, we have,
there's conflict in all collaborative cases as well. It's just how we manage it. The coaches really have a unique contribution in that we're working to help each client manage their emotionality. People always say don't make decisions when you're angry. Well, it's kind of, it makes no sense when it comes to divorce because there's a range of emotions that are involved. So the coaches really help the clients manage their emotions so that they can make positive decisions moving forward and stay goal focused. But they also help co-parents learn how to communicate in a better way so that they're not continually arguing, but they're communicating effectively. And kids need to know that parents can handle decisions moving forward so that they feel safe. And that's something that we really strive to do. We strive to teach parents how to co-parent effectively. It doesn't mean they're going to be best friends. It doesn't mean they're going to get remarried, but they're going to learn how to put their children's needs first and communicate so that decisions can be made for kids. It helps with the co-parenting plan at the outset of the divorce and moving forward. A lot of times clients will call their coaches and say, our kids are getting a little older. What developmental needs do we need to think about now in terms of parenting? And it gives that neutral person to educate parents as to where the kids are at, what their needs are, and how the parenting plan might need to be modified to best address those needs for everyone.
So you talked about various experts, collaborative child specialists, and coaches. Can you talk a little bit about how these experts work in a collaborative case and what their roles are?
Sure. Both specialists that you referred to are integral members of the team. A divorce coach meets with a couple, both together and individually, and helps them understand the dynamics and the stress points of their particular situation. So what is it that they're bringing to the table emotionally that needs to be managed so that they can move forward and set goals that they're comfortable with as the process goes on. We talk about things like readiness for divorce, how to identify when and where communication breaks down, what triggers each person brings to the table that impedes communication. And we kind of really prioritize what are your goals and needs moving forward and why is that important to you so that when you're trying to make those decisions in a collaborative meeting, you're better prepared to move forward in a confident way. We support the couple as they learn how to communicate. We teach them how to compartmentalize their emotions versus being present in the discussion in a problem-solving approach. We as a coach, we facilitate meetings so that each attorney can represent the needs of their client, but the coach can kind of move the communication and the discussion forward, keeps everybody kind of on track. And the child specialist meets with the children to kind of act as the children's voice. It depends on the age level of the kids, of course, but someone needs to kind of be a neutral person to check in with the kids and see where they're at, what concerns there may be for them socially, emotionally, educationally, that kind of impact the decision-making process. And the child specialist can inform the coach and the team as to what they see as the best interests of the child, what their needs are, and how decisions about parenting time will impact that.
This leads to outcomes for children in divorce families with high conflict. What are the differences?
Studies have shown that divorce itself doesn't necessarily have to destroy families or children, but it's the conflict level that is the important variable when we're talking about divorce. Post-divorce outcomes for either protective factors versus risk factors have a lot to do with how conflict is managed after the divorce. For families that continue to experience high conflict, constant arguing, we can't make transitions from parent A to parent B unless we're supervised at the police station or curbside pickup, or we can't manage being at a child's baseball game unless we're on opposite ends of the field, or worse, mom can go on A days and dad can go on B days because they can't be present together. Those are the kinds of situations that really are risk factors for kids long term. It leads to a lot more emotional distress for kids, difficulty in school, difficulty socializing for kids, whereas parents who learn to communicate and manage their conflict and keep it away from children, those families tend to have much healthier outcomes for their kids. And it's really the main focus of collaborative divorce, teaching parents how to manage conflict, how to communicate effectively, and how to really put their family's needs first, whether it was as a, obviously not as a married couple, but as co-parents for their kids.
Right. I think it's also looking at the family unit really changing, but you're still a family. But you're now a divorced family, but you still are the parents of these children, and putting those needs ahead of your own needs. And it might be something as simple as when you attend your child's graduation and your child says, hey, mom and dad, I want a picture with you both, and being able to stand there and take that picture. Perhaps, still getting together on Christmas Day and buying the gifts together and watching as your kids open the gifts together. I think through the collaborative process, there's more of a chance that will happen than through the litigated process, because you've developed the skills to be able to co-parent and be able to move on together, but to, again, put your children's needs ahead of your own needs.
All parents say at the outset of divorce that the kids are most important, in my experience, whether it's a litigated divorce that I'm doing a forensic custody evaluation for, or if it's a collaborative divorce where I'm working as a coach or a child specialist. The difference is that in a litigated divorce, they say the kids need to come first, but they can't get out of the emotional triangle that they're stuck in, not during the divorce and not after. Whereas with the collaborative divorce, we can really work with families to put that into practice. My kid needs to come first, and how am I going to make that work? How am I going to transition from what I'm currently in as a married couple to putting forth a transition towards a healthy family as co-parents and children who are free to love each parent without survival coping of, oh gosh, it's graduation. I don't want to go to my own high school graduation because my parents are going to be in the same room and it's going to be nothing but a nightmare. We find that with collaborative divorce, those protective factors are really maximized and those skills are really worked on so that families can thrive after divorce.
I had another guest say something like that it's not the fact that people divorce that has such a negative impact on children, but rather the way they divorce. And that sounds a lot like what you were saying as well.
It's the way they divorce and how they manage their relationship thereafter.
Right. Because as the relationship's always changing. There's going to be other people because the parties may get remarried, and then you may have stepchildren, and the children are growing up and their lives are changing. So it's being able to develop those skills where you can continue to grow and change over time. So if you have those skills from the beginning, you're more likely to be able to continue to utilize them.
I always say to clients, obviously your marriage is over. That relationship is never going to be the same. It's going to be different. Do you want it to be a positive relationship where you can coexist and do the best thing for your kids, or do you want it to be a continued War of the Roses for the rest of your life? I know that your kids want it to be positive. I know your kids want it to be where my parents can communicate and make decisions without acting, in a conflicted adversarial manner for the rest of my life. So I think it's really important for parents to focus in on your relationship with your children is going to continue to grow. Do you want it to grow in a positive, healthy way, or do you want it to continue on this conflicted, emotionally volatile direction? So working with parents to really make that happen moving forward and teaching them skills is just really integral to the collaborative divorce process. And it really kind of highlights what we do as a team to help families as opposed to a litigated divorce where judges make decisions without a lot of knowledge about the specific goals or needs of each family.
Okay, so the last question I had was, are there couples that have a lot of conflict and there's such high conflict that the collaborative process would not work for them, or do they have to be people that are already not so contentious?
I do agree, Dustin, that there might be people that collaborative divorce does not work for. Those are people that just cannot see eye to eye on any level, and they almost want to relinquish control to a third party. I think they don't want to be involved with any of the decision making, and they feel like, well, let a judge decide, and if that's their attitude, I think it is going to be difficult for the collaborative process to be successful for them.
There needs to be a screening process, just with any kind of consultation or collaborative service that identifies whether a family is appropriate for the collaborative process or not. We talked about transparency as being very important in the collaborative process, and if people are not willing to be transparent, it really undermines the collaborative process. Domestic violence issues can be a factor that would make a family not appropriate for collaborative divorce. Depending on the level of conflict and communication, we look at each case individually before we say, we can work as a collaborative team, or we think litigation is the best option for you. But make no mistake, collaborative divorce isn't all everyone gets along and smiles and holds hands at the table. We deal with a lot of conflicted couples. Not many people going through a divorce are perfect friends at the divorce table. There's just too much animosity and grief and emotional experiences associated with the process. So we do, in collaborative divorce, deal with a lot of conflicted couples who have to manage conflict, but we do it in a healthy way. We do have to screen some couples as appropriate or not appropriate for the collaborative divorce process, but we do help people manage their conflict.
Okay. Well, thank you, Laura D'Orsi and Dr. Donahue. I appreciate your contribution today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
We've been talking with Laura D'Orsi and Dr. Karen Donahue today regarding high conflict divorce, litigation process versus collaborative process. For those of you listening, if you want to learn more about our guest and the topics that we've discussed today, you can get the show notes and learn about the collaborative process at NewJerseyDivorceTalkRadio.com. I also want to take a moment and thank our sponsor, which is Collaborative Divorce Professionals. You can learn more about the Collaborative Divorce Professionals at njcollaborativeprofessionals.com. If you're interested in learning about collaborative law or want to connect with one of the professionals we talked with today, go to the Collaborative Divorce Professionals website and download they have a brochure that profiles each member of the group, and you can learn more about the members there and get contact information. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, and we'll see you in our next episode of New Jersey Divorce Talk Radio.
New Jersey Divorce Talk Radio, empowering families to divorce with dignity.